Hello everyone again, and we are out here in lovely Surprise, Arizona, and we have a community lake. We've been here before, as you know, and today there's lots of birds out here everywhere. There's ducks, there's pigeons, there's doves, blackbirds, grackles, you name it, it's out here. And of course all the ducks are looking for me to feed them, and I will give them something a little bit later. But today we are fishing the Kosmos, and let me show you what I'm fishing with. I am fishing with hot dogs, good old Bar S hot dogs that I have cut sort of lengthwise in little pieces so that they'll fit on a hook well. I've heard that hot dogs work well when you're fishing out here, so I'm going to try that today. And it's very pretty out here today. I like the fountains that aerate the water. Gives it a nice different feel to it, more of an urban feel, I think, but I like the sound of the water also. So over the last few days, what has happened here is that we have had a front come through with clouds, and as is typical in the desert, we had lots of clouds, we had lots of thunder and lightning, wind, and the clouds came and the clouds went, and we got no rain. So that's the way it is in the desert. But today we're going to be fishing out here for anything that will bite again, and we're going to be fishing the Kosmos. We're going to be talking about some stuff. And so we're going to start here and fish for this, see how it goes. So we've got our hot dogs out and a float that I'll be watching, and hopefully we'll get something biting, and of course we will return them to the water and see all the birds you can see. So there's lots of folks out here. Hey, how you doing? Lots of folks out here with their dogs, and a really pretty spaniel. Guy with a spaniel walked by, and so people come out here to enjoy this environment with their dogs and enjoy walking around, and so it's a great place. And so today, that looks like I may have gotten a bite right there. We'll see what happens with that. I don't know if you can see it out there, and it's pretty bright. You probably can. But today we are going to talk about some very interesting things, and I think in one of the previous videos I mentioned to you that we'll be talking about this amazing invitation that we have received. An extraordinary invitation, I believe is what we called it. And I want to talk about what that invitation is, why we have it, and what it means to us, because it is extraordinary. It is amazing. So to start off, I just want to orient you a little bit about one of the apostles, and that is the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul was a Jew, and he was born in Tarsus and raised in Tarsus, and he was trained as a Pharisee. And the Pharisees were a very strict sect of Judaism, and they had enforcers, and that's what ultimately Paul became. His name was Saul, from Tarsus, and he became an enforcer for the Pharisee sect, and anybody that was not holding to that, Saul was commissioned to go out and get them and drag them in, arrest them actually, take them into custody. And the Pharisees would question them and try to convince them that what they were doing was wrong, and what they were doing was blasphemy. And if they didn't, they could actually be punished for what they believed and what they were saying. So Saul was raised as a Pharisee, and so he, at one point, he was commissioned to go out and to pursue the people of the way. And this was the Christians, the people that were identified with Jesus, who was called the Christ, the Anointed One. And they believed in him, and they promoted the things that he promoted. And so they went out talking about this and talking with other people about it. And Saul, because he was part of the Pharisees, believed that that was blasphemy, and he was commissioned to go out and chase them down and arrest them and drag them in, and sometimes they were even killed. And there was one young disciple named Stephen, and he was actually stoned to death by the Pharisees, and Saul was there. And Saul held the cloaks, held the outer garments of the Pharisees as they took them off and picked up the rocks and began to stone Stephen. And so Saul participated in that murder. It was something that he would refer to repeatedly as he spoke with the people of the way about what he had been called to do after that. So, at any rate, he was a true believer of the Pharisee sect. But when he was on his way to arrest, chasing down some Christians, some people of the way, he was encountered on the road to Damascus, which is a city in Syria. And there was a blinding light, and a voice spoke to him. There's a bite right there. Oops. I think it took what I had. Yes, it did. But Saul was on his way to arrest the Christians, and he was encountered by this great light. And a voice spoke to him, and it said, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And Saul, obviously stunned and surprised, said, well, I'm not persecuting you. Who are you? And he said, I am Jesus, whom you're persecuting. And so right then, at that moment, he began to have a revelation of who these Christians really were, and what they believed, and what that meant. And that it was not just some philosophy, that this was something much bigger than he had ever imagined, and something much more powerful than he had ever imagined. And so, in that encounter, Jesus broke through to him and began a process with Saul in which he would show him what he would have to do. He would be presenting the message of Christ, not just Jesus, but Christ, to kings, to the Jews, and to the Gentiles, which was new. And in that, he realized, I'm not going to go through the whole story of how this was told to him, but he realized that the message of Christ, the message that Jesus brought, was for everyone. And it was not just for the Jews, but it was for the Gentiles. And it needed to be told to kings. Now, why would it have to be told to kings? That is part of the key to the message that we will be talking about. I'm getting another bite. So apparently they like the hot dogs. So we'll remember that. We won't have to torture any more worms. We'll use hot dogs out here. And it's not quite an artificial bait, but it is something that apparently they will bite, and I won't have to sacrifice any more worms. We'll let them go other places. But so Paul realized that there was this powerful entity behind the message that the Christians, the people of the way, were promoting. And he became its chief proponent. Saul, who became Paul, the Apostle Paul, would take that message throughout the world of the Gentiles. He would not only present it to the Jews, but he would also go into Asia Minor and present it to the Gentiles. He went on into Macedonia, northern part of what we know as Greece today, but to Macedonia, and then on down into Greece. And eventually he went to Rome, the epicenter of the empire that ruled everything at that time. So, somebody's eating at it, but they're not quite taking it. So, this message, what was this message? Well, Paul, later on, as he wrote his letters to the various ecclesias, described what he was presenting as the revelation. It was the revelation of the Christ and of the kingdom that the Christ came to present. Remember what Jesus said, and John the Baptist before him. He said, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven," Oranos, "is here." That was the message. It was about a kingdom. And we've talked before about this. I believe that we have. And I'm sure that you understand that a kingdom is a government. A kingdom is not a religion. A kingdom has a ruler called a king. And he has subjects. He has a territory over which he reigns. So that when Jesus said, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is here," he was saying that a new government had come upon the scene and that we needed to change the way we think about everything. And repent means, it is metanoeo in Greek, the way it's written in the scriptures. It means to transition your thinking, to transition your thinker as well, and to change your perception, the way you view everything, because the kingdom is here. And so that was the message that Jesus went all through Judea and Galilee, all throughout Israel, promoting. Change the way you think about things because the kingdom is here. Not only that, but Jesus said some very extraordinary things. Amazing things. And he said them over and over and over and over again. One of the most amazing things that he said was, "I am not from this cosmos." Of course, you remember from prior videos that when we talk about cosmos, the world, it's cosmos. It's this created place that we inhabit. It's the universe. It's the earth. It's our solar system. It's the earth. It's this place. He said, "My kingdom is not from this cosmos, this created place. It's from somewhere else. It's called the kingdom of Oranos, or heaven." And Oranos was that untouchable place by natural men. And that's where his kingdom was from. That's where it originated. He told another king that, ruler over the Jews, it was Pilate, who represented the Roman Empire. He told him point blank, pointedly, "My kingdom is not from this cosmos. If my kingdom were from this cosmos, my servants would be fighting that I would not be turned over to the Jews." So he said that not only was he not from this cosmos, he's from outside somewhere, a place called Oranos, heaven, we refer to it. It's not the place where people sit around on clouds with harps, by the way. It has nothing to do with that. You need to get that out of your head a little bit. But it's Oranos. It's an untouchable place by natural men. And that was where he was from. And then as he had disciples, he taught them and told them that they also, when they accepted him as Lord, they were born anew, they were regenerated. They too were now from that place. They were not from this cosmos. There had been a fundamental transformation, or a regeneration really, of their spirit, and so that now they were totally different. They were a different species. They were not from this cosmos either. And he said, when he was talking to the Father in the presence of the disciples, he was just speaking to his Father, our Father. And he said, they are not from this cosmos in the same way that I am not from this cosmos. In the same way, just as in the same way that I am not from this cosmos, they are not from this cosmos. And he said, I don't ask you to take them out of the cosmos, but just protect them from its degeneracy. Protect them from the corrosion and corruption that permeates it. And so he laid the groundwork and the framework for what I refer to as, and actually is, an alternate reality that he presented. And he told the disciples, you are not from this world, this cosmos, as I'm not from this cosmos. Because you're not from this cosmos, it has hated you. This cosmos has hated you. In other words, it opposes you. There's a natural opposition because of who you are and where you are from. And he said, but take courage, be encouraged, be courageous, be bold. Even though in this cosmos you have difficulties and troubles, pressures. Of course, everyone has pressures, but in this world, especially those who would be the Christians, who are the followers of Christ, and those who promoted the way, the road that they had chosen, because of that, there would be an even more intense opposition to them. And it was just integrated right into their thought patterns. It was integrated right into their belief system that they would find this. And indeed they do, and indeed we do. And you see it more intense at times and less at other times. But they knew that and they accepted that. Now, they were not exclusionists. As a matter of fact, they were the most inclusive people you could ever imagine. And those that believe that the world is opposed to them are not exclusionists. We're not antagonists. We just understand that there is going to be this challenge to us all the time from a contrary cosmos, just because of the way it is and because of who we are and where we are from. But then Jesus was describing this one time to another Pharisee named Nicodemus, and he tried to explain it to him using natural analogies, like the wind. And he said, the Pharisee's name was Nicodemus. And he said, you know, the wind blows, basically, is what he said. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know where it's going to. You can't see it. Who can see the wind? Nobody can see the wind. You see the effects of the wind. You see leaves that are picked up. You see waves that come across the water that are created by the wind. Hey, how you doing? Good, thanks. Well, I got a bite, and I got distracted saying hi to folks. But Jesus assured them that they had an opportunity for something that no one else had that didn't choose it. obviously, because it is available to everyone, every person, male, female, child, adult, any person, any race, anywhere, any language. It is for them. The kingdom is for everyone. But when Jesus was talking to Nicodemus, he said, these people are like the wind. And he's talking about spirit-born people. He says you can't see what's going on with them. You can't see where they come from. Obviously, it was Uranus. It was a place untouchable by natural man. You can't see where they're going to. You don't know what's happening with them. You don't know what drives them. You don't know. You can't see it. It is spirit stuff. But, excuse me while I put on another piece of hot dog. But he said, so are those who are born of spirit. And so in that little analogy, he explained to Nicodemus the spirit and what happens with the spirit as people are born by the spirit. And Nicodemus choked on that. These fish are not choking on this. They're taking it willingly, stealing it from me. But Nicodemus choked on it. He said, how can these things even be? How can this be? Jesus said that you must be born again. And that's what he really choked on. This is what Nicodemus really choked on. He says, unless you are born again, regenerated, born anew, he said, you cannot see the kingdom. And he said, truly, I'm telling you the fact, Nicodemus. I said, unless you are born of water and spirit, you cannot enter the kingdom. Well, Nicodemus didn't get it. He really didn't get it. Because he was so oriented toward physical things in the physical world. He said, how can a man be born again? How can he go back into his mother's womb and come out again? That can't happen. Jesus said, you're not getting it. Are you a teacher of Israel and you don't understand these things? What are you going to do when I really start telling you spiritual things? Well, Jesus told him that, he said, God, Father, loved the world so much. This thing that he created and the people that inhabit it, that he gave his only Son, Jesus, that whoever would believe, whoever would take what he was presenting, believe it, would not perish. In other words, would not just be lost at death. That wouldn't happen. But would have eternal life. And so Jesus told this Pharisee, Duck, hope you don't take my line yet, but told this Pharisee the way it was. Paul later told the Ephesians, he said, those whom God predestined, he foreknew, he predestined them. He says that he invited them. And when he invited them, he then justified them. In other words, there was a legal process that happened that brought them into a condition that they could be part of his family, part of his kingdom. And then when that happened, they were justified, he glorified them. In other words, he gave them character qualities that were like his, that were obvious. And so, but the key there that I want to get to in that series of writings of Paul was this, that God invited them. What did he invite them to? He invited them to what Jesus explained clearly to the disciples. that a kingdom, a spirit kingdom, has come onto the earth, has been brought into this cosmos, and it is one that you can't see, as he explained to Nicodemus. You can't see it. To others, he said, if somebody says to you, oh, look, here it is over there, or here it is over there, or this is its headquarters, or, whatever. He said, don't believe that. That's not the way it is. That is not the truth. He says, the kingdom is within you and it is among you. Obviously, a kingdom is within you. Your government must be in your heart. Otherwise, you're an unwilling participant. But we are not unwilling participants. We are willing participants of that kingdom, that king's dominion. We are willing participants in that, so it is in our hearts. That government is in our hearts. We agree with it. And it is among you, he said. So it operates between us. It establishes the standards of interaction between us. But he came and he invited us to be part of that unearthly, non-cosmos oriented government, to be born into it, and then to be transformed so that we can live within it while still being here, living in this cosmos that has changed. As you know, we explained in previous video, it's not like it was. It's not like it was meant to be. It is what it is, and that's what Jesus explained to the disciples that deal with it. He said, I have overcome it. Be encouraged. I have overcome it. And in saying that, he was telling them that so could they. And we are to be born into that and to live as resident aliens, because he said, you are not from this cosmos in the same way that I am not from this cosmos. He was an alien to this cosmos. He came from outside of it and was brought into it. And we, in the same way, have been brought into it. In the same way, he says. And so we are resident aliens in this cosmos. This is the extraordinary invitation that we've been given from an entity who created it all, yet lives outside it, and sent a bona fide, begotten Son from himself into this cosmos to explain it to us and then extend the invitation to us. And now he wants us to extend that invitation to others. And that's what we are charged to do, is to continue to extend it, extend it, extend it. He said, how can I describe that kingdom? It's like a woman who has 3 measures of flour and puts leaven into it, and it leavens and extends until it fills it all. And so that's just what happens as the kingdom is promoted. As the Christians went out and started rolling out this alternate reality, and it is indeed an alternate reality. It has its own rules, it has its own laws, it has its own social structure, it has its own way of interacting. It has, the relationships are unique. And so we are born into that. Well, amazing. This time they didn't get my little hot dog. But we are to live in that and learn to live in that. And so that's what we do as we fish the cosmos, as we try to fish the cosmos. We learn to live in that kingdom, in this cosmos, because we are residents of that kingdom. We have accepted the invitation that was extended by this person, the Son of God, who came into this cosmos to reveal what happened, to explain to us the things that occurred, why things are the way they are, and how they don't have to be that way. and we can step into an alternate reality that is not this reality. He has given to us a new reality. He extends the invitation to all of us. He extends the invitation to you. And when I speak of these things from what's called the scriptures, these are the writings of the disciples, whether they were apostles or not. But these are the writings of the disciples who received this from Jesus, and Paul, who received it from Christ as revelation directly into his spirit and his mind, and began to write about it. This is the invitation, and this is the explanation of that being who Jesus calls our Father, and he is indeed our Father. Now, as we accept the invitation and we are born by his Spirit, we are like him. Jesus was his only begotten Son directly from him, but he is the firstborn of many siblings. We are his siblings. So that we could become like him, live the same way that he lived. And he said, the things that I do, you shall do also. Greater things you will be doing, because I'm returning to the Father. And so in saying that, it's obvious that the invitation means that we not only are born into this alternate reality, and we are different. We are resident aliens in this cosmos from that alternate reality, but we are to adopt its lifestyle, live its ways, and that's why they call them the people of the way, which is what we are, the people of the way. It's an alternate reality. Jesus came, explained it to us, extended an invitation. We have accepted that invitation, and now we form our lives according to its process and its ways. So I just want to make this video today to help explain a little bit of that. We'll be talking a lot more about that as we go on, as we continue to fish the cosmos. And so I wanted you to know this. So thanks for coming. Thanks for enjoying this beautiful place today. And so we'll see you again next time. Thanks.